Hello YouTube, how you guys doing today? Today we're getting into the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Now this is a bestseller. It's changed the field of psychology, especially popular psychology. A fantastic book, Daniel Goleman. I hope you guys check it out. But here's the short and dirty version of the book. So, of course, if you guys haven't seen my videos before, we go through 3 levels of every book. We go through the core concept of the book, the foundational idea of the book. We then talk about the theory, the lower layer, a little bit more specific ideas in the book, but still relatively abstract. And then we talk about action. So action, we go from core concept to theory to action. And action is 3 steps that you can take to apply the knowledge of this book to your life. All right, so let's get started. So the core concept of this book is self-awareness. Metacognition is the scientific term. Meta means above, and cognition is your thought-thinking process. So metacognition means to be above your thinking processes, and that's basically the bread and butter of emotional intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence depends on your ability to reflect on your emotions and be aware of those emotions, and then only then can you act on your emotions or restrict those emotions depending on what you want. So that idea of self-awareness, right, that ties directly to this notion of mastery, right? Mastery. So what is mastery? Mastery is the ability for an individual to use their positive emotions to galvanize them to achieve great things, right? So there were many studies done regarding Eric Anders. He's a famous researcher who, Malcolm Gladwell came up with the 10,000 hours idea, but that's generally true, which is that in order to become an expert at any craft, you need 10,000 hours of diligent, deliberate practice. So in order to achieve that, it obviously takes a long time, 10 years of several hours a day. And in order to be able to get those 10,000 hours, in order to become a master in anything, requires that your ability to first be aware of your emotions and then use those emotions to drive yourself, to motivate yourself, to push yourself forward. Especially, you have to be passionate, right? You have to love what you do. So that's one point of metacognition is first you got to be aware of your emotions, and then you have to use your emotions, right? So traditionally what happens when you become aware of your emotions, brain activity shifts from the limbic system, which is the same brain that we share with monkeys, to your prefrontal cortex, which is the uniquely human part of ourselves. So that's one quality of mastery, right? They say that people who rise to become national champions at chess start playing at 7 years old, and the people who only become state champions, they tend to have started later in their lives. The average is 10 years old. So that's kind of how mastery works. So mastery involves dealing with the negative emotions and using the positive emotions. And also it depends on this idea, and that ties to one of our action steps here, is the notion of mastery requires that you delay gratification, right? That you focus on long-term goals, that you take what you need to do and do it no matter how you feel, right? Discipline. So that's one nature of the deny thyself action step, but we'll get into that later. So the other side of emotional intelligence is managing emotions in others, right? You have to be able to have empathy, and to have empathy you need self-awareness. You need to know, oh, I know what anger is, therefore when that person looks at me very angrily, I'm aware of what that feeling is for me, therefore I'm aware of what it is for them, right? So empathy, that's one quality of relationships. Empathy. And the other side of it is social grace. Social grace. So what is social grace? The ability to intuit another person's emotions and then act appropriately in the social situation in order to accurately diffuse the situation if it's a negative situation, or heighten the positive situation if it's a positive situation. Next or later in this series, we'll be getting into Daniel Goleman's other book, Social Intelligence, which gets into the social side of things a little bit more. But that's for later. Let's stick with this mastery concept, right? So mastery depends on this idea of delaying gratification, mastering your impulses, right? Today I was at a Mexican restaurant, right? And I could not stop myself from eating those darn tortillas. I just practiced, right? Like, try to practice with myself. I was like, all right, I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to master my impulses to eat these tortillas. And I failed. But the fact is, I practiced it, right? I delayed it a little bit. I got better. I strengthened that self-control mechanism. And this idea of denying yourself ties to this other idea of self-efficacy. And that is your belief. That is your belief of being a master of your environment, right? That is your ability to it's the belief, right? Self-efficacy means the belief in your ability to control the outcomes that you desire, right? To actualize the outcomes that you desire. So that's one fact. Okay, so the next action step that you can take is work on creating flow in your life. So how do you create flow, right? Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He wrote the book Flow, which we will also be talking about later. He says you can only get into flow when the challenge of the task is equal to your skill. If the challenge is too high, you become anxious. If the challenge is too low for your skill, you become bored. So it's that perfect sweet spot, that balance between skill and a challenge that you are trying to master. But let's get real, right? Flow, right? To get into flow, you have to be engaging in some craft that requires mastery. You can't enter flow while you're while you're on your butt eating potato chips watching TV. It's not going to work like that. Flow, you will not get into flow like that. You have to challenge yourself, push yourself forwards. So that's one quality of flow. Let's see another one. Complete absorption. That's the term that I was looking for. Flow means complete absorption in the task at hand, so that when you do it for like 30 minutes, it only feels like, whoa, it seems like I've only been at this, a few minutes, but, it's already been 30 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So I definitely recommend that you action step take flow, and the action step that I want you to do is first discover your passion, and I'll do another video on that, on how to discover your passions. But discover your passion and then throw yourself into it, right? Writing is my passion, right? I write books. If you want to check them out, I'll put a link in the description. But yeah, so just throw yourself into something you're passionate about and watch as you enter flow states as you get better at the task, as you learn to master the task. So that's the second thing. And the third idea is process goals. So usually this I got this idea from James Clear's book Atomic Habits, which we are going to do eventually in this series as well. Most people, when they set goals for themselves, they only set outcome-oriented goals, right? If they work out, they're like, oh, I want that beach body. I want a nice body. If they, write books, they want, oh, I want that New York Times bestseller. They don't focus on the process of improvement, right? That comes down to your ability to understand this idea of delaying gratification and controlling yourself, right? So with emotional intelligence, you learn to motivate yourself to enjoy the process of getting healthier, whether if it's running, or the process of getting better at writing. So, the other day I was like running. I've gotten into fitness pretty hardcore recently, and dieting. And I was like, oh man, I'm so ready to get my beach body. And literally that idea of focusing on the outcome versus the process of running, getting those endorphins flowing, getting my brain juices flowing, getting all of that stuff going. Instead of that, I was focusing on the outcome, and therefore I lost motivation when I looked at my fat belly. Like here's my fat belly, guys. It's not that fat, but like, it's there. So I'm trying to get rid of that. So that's the difference between a process and an outcome goal. So let's quickly review. Emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman. The core concept is self-awareness, metacognition, meta-emotion, right? Being aware of your thoughts and emotions so you can use them instead of allowing them to use you. Then you have this idea of mastery, right? And relationships. Mastery is using emotional intelligence to focus on yourself. Relationships is using emotional intelligence to focus on others and help others. And the action steps that you can take to optimize your mastery is denying yourself, practice self-denial, practice discipline, right? And you'll get better at it. Flow, which I described pretty appropriately, I think, and process goals instead of outcome goals. So those are the three layers of the book Emotional Intelligence. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good one.